On this episode of Latinas, we'll see some of our finest segments of the entire season. Huepa! Latinas starts now. Welcome to Latinas, the show that celebrates nuestras mujeres in the Latinx community. I'm Tina Beth Pina. Today, we're sharing with you some of our very best segments from this past season. And our first one is about a childhood favorite many of us related to growing up. Remember Maria from Sesame Street? She was one of the first Latino characters on national television and was portrayed by Sonia Manzano, who has now created a new animated series for PBS called Alma's Way. We sat down with her to see what the show is all about.
So many questions, so much to explain. Figure it out as you hop on the 6th train. With Mommy, Papi, Junior, and Abuelo, mi gente. I'll take you through and share it with you. Come on, vente!
I'm so excited for kids to flip through PBS Kids and see Alma and say, mira, mira, let's watch that show. And already, kids, my sources tell me, kids are saying, oh, look, she looks like me. I felt when I was first on Sesame Street, I thought, oh, I wish this was around when I was little, because I was looking at Father Knows Best, wondering where I was in that scenario. And I think I was successful on that show because I never forgot myself not seeing people like me on television. So I hope that people will certainly be relieved that they're seeing people like themselves on television. And PBS asked me to create a show with a Latin family, and I made it more specific and made it a Puerto Rican family who lives in the Bronx, because that's where I'm from. I'm Puerto Rican or New Yorican, and I was raised in the Bronx. And I thought it was the perfect setting for an animated children's show. Most of the characters are based on people that I know, on my family. There's a character that I'm very proud of named Eddie Mambo, who has cerebral palsy, and he's based on my real cousin, Eddie Guagua Rivera, and this kid named Dennis who had polio. And I think that Alma is really me as a little girl, only she's a much nicer kid.
Am I good or what?
I noticed that a lot of kids are under a lot of stress in schools. They think school is memorizing. There's a lot of people in the classroom. Maybe they don't speak English. Anyway, they were turned off to the concept of thinking, even before they realized the joys of thinking. So I said, you know, let me do a show that highlights the process of thinking so that kids know everybody has a mind and everybody can use their own mind. And it's not about information or memorization. We can all get information from the internet. It's what you do with that information.
I gotta find Abuelo's lucky sock, or else Chacho can't spend the night with me. I've gotta think about this.
It gives me an enormous sense of pride that hopefully many generations will be watching Alma's Way. I hope that their interest happens after the show is over, that they start thinking about what Alma did and was that a good choice and how they would manage being in a similar situation. You know, we've come a long way with Latino programming and Latino stories, and I hope that this is the tip of the iceberg. I don't want to be the only one anymore.
Like many Latinas, I have curly hair, and for years I've been blow drying it straight. Although I haven't fully embraced my curls, many Latinas are wearing their hair natural and showing their rizos a lot of love. Hunter College correspondent Ambra Arroyo has more.
We already know as Latinas that it was always pelo malo here, pelo malo there. You want to go to a wedding, blow dry the hair, girl. Make it look pretty.
Nubia Rezo, founder and CEO of the Rezo brand, has been working with curly hair for the past 40 years as a hairstylist, educator, and curl specialist.
When I became a curl specialist, my whole world changed. And like the elephant in the room, I don't have texture hair, but the empathy and understanding what curly girls and curl communities, boys and girls, felt about 40 plus years, feeling that somehow the texture hair was wrong. It was not beautiful. And my mission since then is to show the world how beautiful and strong and validate that texture hair was never created wrong. It's an expression of freedom and confidence.
That expression of confidence has enabled curly hair salons like Rezo Salon to promote curly hair positivity and acceptance amongst women and Latinas all over the country.
Having curly hair is not complicated. It's as easy as having a straight hair, because now you're building a relationship with yourself. When you create that security in you, there is nothing in the world that could put you down.
It's not always easy to love your curls, especially when you're programmed not to. I wore my hair straight for years, which, according to Nubia, may not always be ideal.
We already know that when you take heat to your hair, constantly putting it at very high levels of heat, sometimes for 55, very hot, it thins the air, it will damage the hair, and the pulling will create, in many cases, hair loss.
Thankfully, people's obsession with straight hair is changing. There's been a lot of curly hair positivity, so what do you think about that? Why do you think that women all of a sudden are starting to love and embrace their natural curls?
You know what, I love you asking me that. I feel that we are tired of living who we're not. You know, accepting who you are in your fullness and at 1,000%, it makes us happier. Why we need to look like an image of in a magazine on TV? That is not us. And I feel that our Latinas now love the curves, love the big hair, and appreciating our heritage is validation day by day that we are the most incredible community that have been the special flavor, especially in America.
Being who we are not only means wearing our hair naturally, but also understanding that there are different types of curls that need to be managed differently. What kind of tips or advice do you have for women and Latinas that they want to start embracing their curls, they want to start wearing their hair curly, but they don't know where to start?
What hair needs, texture hair needs, is more water, like our body. 80% water and just 20% product. Teaching not to overload the curls with so much products, let them be alive, let them be soft. So just be patient, fall in love with the hair, and fall in love with the process.
For Latinas, I'm Amber Arroyo.
Believe it or not, a lot of Latinas are not perfectly fluent Spanish speakers. We sometimes forget words when we're having a conversation in Spanish, and some of us just don't know the language at all, and that's okay. But it can make us feel a certain way. So we asked the ladies from the sketch comedy group Hilarious their thoughts on that subject, and that's the topic of today's Caliente Caliente.
So I went to a very Dominican studio surrounded by very Dominicans, and the lines were in Spanish, and I really failed. Like, I really failed miserably to the point that they were like, tenemos que cambiar la palabra, loco. They were like, we gotta change the lyrics because she can't say the words.
I've just learned to be unapologetic about it, and I go, ustedes saben que yo soy gringa, ¿verdad? And tell people, you guys know that I'm whitish. So if I mess something up, please do correct me. It's about people having patience and us being open to learning.
Actually, when I first started, when I was in elementary school, I couldn't speak any English. Like, my first language was actually Spanish.
Wow, Glory.
Yeah. And then I couldn't say Wednesday for the life of my life. I couldn't say Wednesday.
I know, what is it?
That last year when I went to DR, I was like, I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to fit in. No one's going to know that I'm not Spanish and Dominican enough. So I was talking to the Uber driver on the way to the airport, and he's like, "No, se te nota que tu español tú lo aprendiste, que tú lo aprendiste allá." And I was like, "Damn, I tried so hard." They know it.
They know.
Yo, how did you try extra hard? Did you add extra like locos at the end? Like, voy para allá, loco. Yo tengo hambre, loco.
I'm sorry.
Vowels.
I get super self-conscious trying to speak Spanish in front of Dominicans. Like, that's like the one demo that I'm just like, I'm not even like, I don't even know. I'm just drowning here. As a kid, I would pick up on words that like was around my grandma or my aunt, but like when her Dominican ass would speak to me, I'd be like a deer in headlights, like, Like I felt so insecure about being Latina.
We need to be around the right people that are willing to teach and teach us so that we don't feel as self-conscious.
Generally, I feel like when I get self-conscious speaking Spanish, it really does come from me. But my issue is that when I do speak what I can speak, I sound like I know what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like my accent, like, you know, like I sound like I do speak, and then I get caught, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, pero habla," and I'm just like, "Oh, slow down."
Right, you got 2 sentences in, and they're like, "You're an imposter."
Yeah.
So you know what's so interesting about this conversation? Because I was like, you know what? Everyone here is probably so confident in their Spanish. I think within our cultures, like I've been battling this with my like stand-up. I have imposter syndrome within my culture. I'm like, I'm not Dominican enough.
And I'm like, if you only knew like the war going on in my head of, am I saying this correctly? The tenses, are those correct? The
The
like,
conjugations,
and like
the grammar, accents.
I feel like we just have to be unapologetic about it. It's easier said than done, and just work with what we got. If we only know 5 words, we're gonna say the crap out of those 5 words, and then just build on those 5 words. Oh, you taught me a new word today. Now I got 6 words to work with.
The first set that I ever wrote was all about being a bad Latina. Like that was my punchline. Like, I'm a bad Latina. I'm Italian and I'm Puerto Rican. I speak neither fluently, but I am fluent in code switch. You know what I mean? Like that's the whole bit.
Like we're all having this conversation, but I never in my mind was like, oh, this person is not Latina. Like I always label you ladies as like, oh my God, these are Latina women that I love. But hearing everybody have like their insecurities, I'm like, wait, so I'm not the only one that feels like my Spanish is up.
It's the bougie ass Spanish speaking people that want to make us feel bad about ourselves. And it's like, stop it. We're amazing the way we are.
They're not the culture police.
Wait, can
gods?
Can we just play culture police for a sec? Because I want to add something to the summons, the list. Something else.
Say it fast. Just say it fast, because then
those same people that are talking to us in Spanish, la tía, lo tío, abuelo, the older primas, could you meet us halfway? Because you know you speak some English. You know you speak some English. I see you at the supermarket. You know, how much hiciste? $10 for $1? Okay. Like, so you could talk to me too. Meet me halfway, yo.
Imagine if we flipped it on them. Imagine if we like, tía, pero tú tienes 30 años en este país. Tú todavía no hablas inglés.
Like, well, first you get a chancleta to the face, and then maybe we'll talk about it.
You'll have some, right?
Born in Havana, Cuba, Tania León is a highly regarded music composer and conductor who's recognized worldwide for her significant accomplishments as an educator and advisor to arts organizations. The award-winning music virtuoso is a professor emeritus at the City University of New York, and in 2021, she won a Pulitzer Prize in Music for her orchestral work, Stride. At 78 years young, there's no slowing down for Tania León, today's Badass Latina. Imagine a world where trans Latinas have zero employment discrimination and a sense of financial independence for themselves. That community exists in Queens, New York with the Mirror Trans Beauty Co-op. Diana Vargas has the story.
Persecution and violence against the LGBT communities in Latin America and Mexico are pervasive. Like many trans Latinas, Jocelyn and Leslie didn't feel safe until they reached the United States.
Yo tuve que emigrar de México porque por mi orientación sexual, yo vengo de un padre racista, homofóbico. Todo eso a mí me estaba afectando. Una vez también trataron de arrastrarme en un caballo. Mi vida estaba corriendo peligro por mi orientación sexual, por cómo yo me identificaba.
Me vine aquí ya con una pareja. Pronto cumplimos 25 años de casado. También me vine de México por la discriminación, pero la mía, parte de las personas que no les tomaba mucho en cuenta, era en la policía.
Since 2002, New York City human rights law has prohibited discrimination based on gender identity in housing, employment, public accommodations, credit, and education. However, almost 47% of transgender and gender non-conforming individuals said they have been fired, not hired, or denied a promotion because of their gender identity.
Llegué aquí a los Estados Unidos en el 98 y empecé a trabajar como un chico gay en un restaurante. Fui siempre discriminada, me corrían porque me identificaba como una mujer trans.
Sí es chocante cuando te ven y voltean a ver como, oh, eres hombre. Eso es lo que me molesta a mí.
Jocelyn and Leslie decided to fight for a better future for themselves and for the transgender community, and not even a pandemic could stop them.
Hace 4 años nace un sueño eran de 5 chicas. Nació Mirror.
La idea principal de Mirror es dar empleo a la comunidad transgénero, que se empodere.
Significa fuerza, poder y sobre todo inteligencia.
Y hacer nuestro negocio que sea un lugar alegre, seguro, donde tú puedas expresar tu sexualidad o tu identidad de género fluidamente.
Tú tienes que cerrar el blush para lograr un efecto visual de que estás recogiendo ese rostro. Yo soy instructor en belleza, pero en mi último tiempo aprendí a conocer un poco más a la comunidad trans y me pareció interesantísimo. Entonces yo estoy colaborando con ellos precisamente porque entiendo que necesitan la oportunidad de encontrar las herramientas adecuadas para ellas poder salir adelante.
Yo creo que es muy importante que nuestra comunidad de gente gay, transgénero, haya educación para nosotros, porque así el resto de las personas nos van a respetar más.
Yo, como transgénero, estoy cansada de que me encasillen como trabajadora sexual. Yo no discrimino a mis compañeras que opten por ser trabajadoras sexuales, pero queremos dar apoyo, educación, para que tengamos otra alternativa laboral.
El COVID nos afectó a todas nosotras. Nos volvió a ser vulnerables, ya que muchas de nosotras hacemos el trabajo sexual. Yo fui una trabajadora sexual también, pero ahorita con Mirror no ejerzo el trabajo sexual.
No importa que nos discriminen, nosotros vamos a seguir adelante con nuestros objetivos porque queremos dar una visibilidad muy positiva para la sociedad.
La comunidad trans necesita oportunidades porque muchas de nosotras tenemos diferentes habilidades, ¿sí? Pero no tenemos oportunidades.
Diana Vargas for Latinas.
Do you want your kids to become financially independent? Financial advisor Maria Ángeles Bonain is about to give you some tips so that they too can eventually become the jefes of their money.
You are the jefa of your money. Now, let's teach our children the meaning of money, understanding money, being responsible about money, and managing their money. And where do we start? We can help our children create a budget. That budget will allow them to plan what they'd like to do with their money. And for that, we need to look at the money coming in, the money that's going out, money coming in. For your children, this could mean gifts, grandparents, could mean allowances, the money that you give every month, every week. It could mean earnings, like babysitting job or tutoring. Money going out could be divided into needs, those are the essentials, wants, those are the nice to have, and savings. I think it's incredibly important that we teach our children to save early on. And here's a tip. Remember the 50-30-20 rule. Of the money coming in, allocate 50% to needs, 30% to wants, and 20% for saving. I hope these tips are useful, and see you next month.
Although the COVID-19 pandemic has slowly become something we've been able to live with for the past 2.5 years, it has had devastating effects, especially in the Latinx community. Here's one woman's heartbreaking story.
I feel like I look a year back today, and I didn't know, nor did I think that this would happen to us. Hi, my name's Nancy Solis. I am from Newburgh, New York, Orange County. I lost my father and my 2 younger sisters to COVID in May of 2020. all passed in 3 different hospitals. They all passed not knowing of each other, or that one had passed before the other. And it was very hard. And, it just happened that way. My father was a diabetic, and my 2 sisters were both born with Alport syndrome. One was in dialysis, and one, was high risk already because she had a kidney transplant. I worry about my mother. The 3 people that passed, her husband and her 2 babies, were the 3 people that she lived with. So I was afraid that something more than COVID, depression, would get to her. Loneliness, and she has now 5 living children still. So we're all within 5 minutes from my mother's house, so we're always there every day. She feeds us. That's her happiness. She cooks dinner for us, and she wants us all there, and we give it to her. That's the least we could do.
Recognizing and celebrating Afro-Latinidad is important across the Latino community. So we decided to learn more about Bomba Plena, the percussion-driven musical tradition of African heritage, which is being taught, revered, and preserved in the Bronx. Elena Romero headed uptown for that story.
Brought to Puerto Rico in the 17th century by African slaves, bomba remains one of the most popular forms of folk music on the island and serves as significant evidence of its rich African heritage.
At one point, as you know, it was almost extinct. And that's why it's important to me as a woman of color, as a Black Puerto Rican, to show the world that yes, en Puerto Rico hay negro. En Puerto Rico venimos de todas partes. We come from all parts. We can be active and we can be proactive and document our own history and our own stories for the next generation. And that's exactly what we do at Bombazo.
Dancer and cultural activist Milteri Tucker Concepcion founded Bombazo Dance Co. and Bombazo Wear 16 years ago, with the mission to preserve the history and traditions associated with bomba and plena, the narrative storytelling of current and political events.
So plena is, and the skirts are much shorter, right? So we go side to side, tumpa, right? So we go ha. This is plena. And we also dance it with a partner, right? We go around. Es más jocoso, right? Where bomba is a little bit more weighted, and some of the rhythms are a little bit more weighted, it's a little bit more serious, like the rhythm of yuba, tukutum, tukutum, right? Connected to the ancestors, but it could also be very playful, like wembe, right? Cadera. So bomba has like 20-something rhythms. Plena is just one rhythm, right? But each pandero, so we normally have 3, each person has a rhythm that they need to hit to create this one rhythm.
Tucker Concepcion offers free bomba y plena dance and drum classes to adults and children at The Point in the Bronx.
There was a need and there was a thirst to learn more. The community wanted to learn how to dance. And when I started my company, I not only did the traditional aspect, but I also wanted to continue to elevate the form of fusing it with contemporary and social styles of dance.
39-year-old Tucker Concepcion, who has apprenticed with bomba elders and distinguished families in Puerto Rico, also custom designs bomba and Caribbean skirts for dancers.
These are skirts on a mission that are for the culture, by the culture, and it just continues to help not only the community here through our organization, but also back at home in Puerto Rico. So we've been able to, from the sales of these skirts, support other cultural warriors in Puerto Rico.
So how long does it take to make a skirt?
Mira, esa es la pregunta de los 60,000 chavitos. A good 2.5 hours just for one skirt. Because of from cutting, everything from cutting.
And is this a la medida?
A la medida. These type of skirts, I feel that it cannot be generic.
Bombazo wear skirts have been featured in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade and on PBS's Alma's Way and at the Centro Cultural in Ponce that commemorates Black History Month and PR Fashion Week.
When I first started a few years back with the company, I didn't know anybody here that could sew these type of skirts. I feel like the newer generation is like, it's like an awakening of, this is my African ancestry because of why? Again, we don't want it to be extinct.
For Latinas, I'm Elena Romero.
And that's our show for today. For more information on what you just saw, check out our website at tv.cuny.edu and follow our social media profiles because we love sharing our Latino stories with you. And please make sure you tune in this September for season 4. It's gonna be huepalicious. Until then, cuídense y huepa. Hasta la próxima. Bye-bye.